Auzubillahi minash shaitwanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and Watching World this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I happen to be Shahzad Khan, and with me, I'm really lucky that I've been joined by my wonderful colleague who happens to be Miss Eesha Rehan. Hello Eesha, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam, Shahzad. I am doing great. How are you feeling today?
Absolutely perfect. But obviously, for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, the last 24 hours, as said by the Information Minister, were very important. And just yesterday in the morning, when we got to our studios, we made sure that we actually talk about the Pelgram false flag attack. And we certainly did. But what has happened in all of these 24 hours that we have spent so far, I think I would want to update my audiences, and what's going to happen next is something which certainly has a question mark towards the end. But in addition to this, I think Prime Minister Shahbaz actually had a phone call with the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, rejecting Indian allegations linking Pakistan to the Pahalgam incident and calling for a transparent investigation. He condemned terrorism in all forms and highlighted Pakistan's sacrifices in the war of terror. Prime Minister criticized India's provocative actions, including attempts to weaponize water, and urged the US to press India for restraint. He stressed that peace in South Asia hinges on resolving the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. The two also discussed strengthening Pakistan-US ties in counter-terrorism and economic cooperation. Secretary Rubio appreciated the conversation and affirmed continued collaboration for regional stability. In addition to this, I would want to kind of quote the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Ishaq Dar, over here, where amid rising tensions with India, Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar has said Pakistan will not initiate any escalation but warned of a strong response if provoked, and that's how it needs to be. If somebody turns an evil eye towards the sovereignty of our country, of our motherland, Pakistan, certainly they will be getting a befitting response. He made these remarks during a joint press conference with Inter-Services Public Relations Director General Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry and Foreign Office spokesperson Shafqat Ali Khan, where they addressed recent border confrontations with India along in the line of control and accused New Delhi of supporting terrorism inside Pakistan. Not just that, I think in order to talk about preparedness, I think that the perfect gentleman to quote over here is the DG ISPI Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry Saab, who actually says, is it the first time it is happening? No. There is a litany of using terror incidents for political ends. This is important. These terror incidents have a political objective. We saw last time in Pulwama how the terror incident in February was used for change of status of Kashmir. We are seeing now that a terror incident that happened in Pahalgam is being used for the purpose of IWT distracting from Pakistan's continuously and hard-fought one war on terrorism and successful efforts in reviving the economy. And to speak further more about it, ladies and gentlemen, where certainly we have taken the statement of the Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Ishaq Dar, who says Pakistan won't initiate but will respond strongly to any Indian escalation. Ladies and gentlemen, to talk about this, we're very lucky that we have been joined by Air Marshal retired Shahid Akhtar. Shahid Saab, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you on the show.
Walaikum assalam, Mr. Rehan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. Very kind of you. Sir, to get started, obviously, I think the question needs to be that despite Pakistan's call for a neutral investigation into the Pahalgam incident being welcomed by several countries, India continues to reject the proposal. The question that arises is, if New Delhi is confident in its position, why not allow an impartial probe to prove its stance before the international community?
Well, I think very logical question. But I would say that it's very simple. India refuses because loophole in its claim are so wide that any, impartial inquiry would utterly collapse the entire narrative. Look, if India had a solid evidence of Pakistan's involvement, it would have presented those facts uh, within hours, not to talk of waiting for the week. So, and historically, we all know that, India has always rushed to blame Pakistan on the flimsiest of the evidence. So, why
Sir, in addition to this, I think Pakistan Army has destroyed multiple Indian posts in retaliatory action as India violated ceasefire agreements on line of control. And according to the sources, India actually carried out unprovoked firing in the Kiani and Mandal sectors, and Indian Army used small arms in the unprovoked firing. Adding on, Pakistan Army responded effectively and gave a befitting reply to the Indian forces. But not just that. I think, Eesha, what we really need to establish over here is that these voices have started to arise, and that too from within India. So I'm going to quote the Samajwadi Party President Akhilesh Yadani, who has questioned that the credibility of the Indian government's narrative and the state of national security. Not just that, allegations of a false flag operation have surfaced as the official version of events, which comes under increasing scrutiny. I think that's a question which now India needs to answer over here, because under the BJPization or the fascist Modi rule, what we have seen is that unfortunately, sense is not prevailing within India. And we have seen how Modi himself has targeted minorities even within India. Not just that, how properties of people within the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir have been destroyed. So it's still so unclear, for us over here as Pakistanis and as Pakistan to see what's actually going on. Have they hit the panic button? Not just that, even in a crossfire, just yesterday, they have killed 6 Sikh armed officers of their own. So, it's really tricky where we are at this point of time, and we stand at the crossroads. So, sir, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Sorry, it was disturbed. So I was actually replying to your question that why India is not willing to hold an impartial inquiry. And I was just, bringing the point that any impartial inquiry would expose the presence of homegrown militants, and which are growing in number because of the Indian forces brutalities, and not only in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, but in Punjab, in Chhattisgarh, in Odisha, and in the Seven Sisters that we call. And India does not want world through this inquiry to see those brutalities. And we all know that India has consistently refused United Nations mission to presence in their part of Kashmir. So, in nutshell, answer to your question is that the idea of permitting neutral expert actually threaten to unravel a carefully, crafted facade. So I'm really confused. Neither they want an inquiry, nor they are presenting any facts. So what do they want? A mindless aggression, perhaps?
Not just that, sir, I think how I or probably, people are looking at it even in Pakistan, I think it's for them to build an infrastructure where, the Indus Waters Treaty actually stands suspended as well. But not just that, I think in addition to this, sir, they haven't recovered from the embarrassment of Balakot incident. And if we are to kind of speak about that, what realistic or assertive options remain on the table for them to act decisively against Pakistan, especially with the looming reality that both countries are nuclear power?
True. I think, but you asked me about the military options, but which the Indian has. I think in order to fulfill Prime Minister Modi's bold claim of so-called punishing the handlers. Well, frankly, as a military person, I mean, any logic and military prudence rule out any major aggression. But since you have asked me the question, so I would say that Prime Minister Modi, who has been cornered by his own hyper-nationalistic media, has made promises which he would find very difficult to fulfill. But let's see, what they can do one by one. If their objective is to getting or getting hold of a territory, then crossing international border is something which Indian military command, even with the kind of autonomy they have been given, as we are told that in the press, in the meeting, the Prime Minister has given them this tactical or operational autonomy, still they would unlikely to risk. And if you talk of an LOC is unforgiving. We all know it can take a week to cross a single Nala which is under fire. So making the dream of swift less than operationally absurd. And mind you, PF is still on their head.
Exactly, and sir,
Now
which is
talking
why
about the
Which is why I would want to kind of add it over here as well, and I would want our audiences to know that how Pakistan Air Force forced 4 Indian Air Force Rafale fighter jets to flee following their presence was detected in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So Pakistan Air Force, maybe Pakistan Navy and Pakistan Army is at it. And I think there was a statement as well where yesterday they said that they might start it, but then we will decide the end. That's how Pakistan is looking at it.
Yeah, exactly. But let me get back to that. That we talked about the ground. If we talk of the air option, the lesson of Balakots are very evident. I mean, Indians could not gain strategically anything out of that. So this time, I mean, a token, they can take a 1 day whole operation, and this is a fodder for the Indian media. But then it would invite a disproportionate PF response. And if you talk about the blockade at the sea, well, it takes weeks to materialize, and which is too weak a show for a frenzy Indian media. So any action is illogical, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible, and it is a definite, a danger of, I would say, tarnishing Indian image.
Exactly. And sir, in addition to this, where I asked you a previous question about the embarrassment of Balakot and what options are we left with, I think if India still chooses an aggressive, I don't know whether I should call it response or not, because there's no involvement of Pakistan and they couldn't even figure it out themselves, and we've been asking for a neutral investigation. If they still choose for a misadventure, what military or diplomatic solutions do you think Pakistan has?
Well, I think, if you're talking in terms of a response, well, if you're talking about military, then considering the full, weight of history, well, the doctrine, and you know, the geopolitical pattern, I will stress upon Pakistan response would be resolute. In short, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and there's no holding back. And let me again say that Pakistan Armed Forces will be ready to respond at various levels of escalation. And being a very professional armed forces, we know how to dominate the escalation ladder. So if Indians miscalculate and act irresponsibility, we will decide the intensity and pace of conflict. I mean, we cannot tolerate a Hindutva-driven aggression. On the diplomatic front, I think Pakistan has a very solid case to take it to the UN. We will take it to the OIC forums. We have a number of friends in the world, and since Indian narrative has not been accepted by any capital in the world, so I think on diplomatically we have already on a very strong footing.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. I feel like our morals were already high, but our spirits have been lifted definitely by your statement. I would like to dive into the fact that India's BJP's party has been ruling with a very aggressive and extremist approach regarding their national security. And they have been exploiting these cross-border incidents, such as the Pelgram incident, just to gain political stability within their own country. So is this Pelgram incident another anti-Pakistan rhetoric that they are using to gain votes?
It's a very good question, I must say, and you have just hit the nail. The close relationship between BJP government and top businessmen. Now, this is a very important point for the audience to understand. Like Mukesh Ambani and Gautam Adani are open secrets, and poor people of India watch this unholy alliance helplessly. The critique says that this helps BJP stay in power by mixing, kind of a political goals with business interest. Now, while the real problem of, Indians are totally ignored, and this is the typical case of you scratch my back and I scratch yours, and in return they get big, kind of a government deals. These tycoons, in return, provide huge financial support to Modi and BJP, and and call it an RSS. So now with Prime Minister Modi's popularity declining, they are eager to secure, at least two more BJP tenure in future. And so that is why they are pushing, an anti-Pakistan agenda, and narrative, just like they did after the Balakot strike. We all know that how Modi managed to win because of that. So I must say that Indian media, unfortunately, for benefit financially out of this alliance, which is a very dangerous alliance. And I hope this time Indian public does not fall into this trap.
Exactly. And sir, we'll come back to this as well, but there's been, voices have been risen within India as well, where the Samajwadi Party president Akhilesh Yadav has questioned the credibility of the Indian government's narrative and the state of national security. Allegations of a false flag operation have surfaced as the official version of events, which comes under increasing scrutiny. So, people from within India are actually even speaking about it, that, how or why are you targeting Pakistan on this?
Exactly, exactly. If you ever happen to listen to Mr. Praveen Swani, who is a editor of Force magazine, a very reputable Indian magazine, he's giving very sane advices to Indian armed forces, to Indian politicians, to Indian bureaucratic setup. And but at the same time, he's now being attacked from within. And we have seen that the moderate voices in India are being silenced. And this has happened especially after the BJP's tenure. And previously, I'm a witness to that. Still, there were, with both sides were represented in the Indian media. I mean, the moderate as well as the rightist or the extremist. But this time, the moderates are finding it very hard. But still, there is a criticism. And with the passage of time, you will see these voices will start to emerge more and more, not only in the parliament, in the media, but elsewhere also.
Exactly. And sir, in addition to this, just to kind of wrap it up towards the end, there have been unusual movements of Indian forces along line of control in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And or certainly, we do see the preparedness of Pakistan Air Force, Pakistan Navy, and Pakistan Army. How has the past few days been at the LOC?
Well, I'm not witness, to that. I'm not privy to what has been happening on the LOC. But if you ask me that how prepared we are, then I can tell you that with the past experience, since when the Balakot and Swift retort operations happened, I was part of that. So I can well imagine what kind of a preparation must have been done and how prepared the PF is and what kind of an edge, alhamdulillah, it has over the enemy. Well, if you want, I can even explain those things as well.
Exactly, but that's fine, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your kind words. And it was wonderful to be in conversation with you, and the affirmation and the resolve that we have as Pakistanis and Pakistani nations will certainly stand firm on that as well. And the entire Pakistan nation is actually backing their armed forces and will continue to do so. But not just that, I think just to kind of close it off, ladies and gentlemen, the DGISP's press conference has exposed not only India's agenda, but it also exposed Indian terrorism network in Pakistan to the world. And according to sources, in a desperate attempt, the Indian government has started blaming its own citizens for its failures, and this speaks quite louder, how, because you certainly see their actions and then you see their words, and there's so much of discrimination in between them. So I think probably the world now knows who's sponsoring terrorism within this part of the region, and that's certainly the Modi's fascist regime. We're going for a short break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, certainly we'll be talking about how Pakistan is going to be the next tech hub, and certainly we're looking forward to that. Good morning. Stay with us.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And me and Shahzad were just talking about how in the past few days, we have been feeling like we have been melting under the sun.
But not me, because I don't wear makeup.
And you know, as Pakistanis, we do love to enjoy our summers with a lot of limo pani, sweet lemonade and swimming sessions. However, the recent heat wave in Pakistan is to be taken with a lot of seriousness and precaution. Diving into the news that Pakistan could set the new world record of the highest temperature this week. An American newspaper has warned in a report. The Washington Post has said that the heat in South Asia could touch a world record of 50 degrees this week. Temperatures in central and southern Pakistan rose to 118 degrees Fahrenheit last weekend and are forecast to climb through Wednesday, possibly nearing the global April record of 122 degrees Fahrenheit, according to the report. Nawabish district in Sindh reached the scorching mark back in April 2019 and could repeat it again this week.
Well, and not just that, I think that's not the kind of world record that we certainly want to witness, but it is to be mentioned here that the Pakistan Meteorological Department predicted heat wave conditions from April 26th till 30th, advising the public to take precautionary measures. So, ladies and gentlemen, the only thing is, car betho, please, sukoon naal pani shani pivo, te car hi raho, mere khayal hai, until and unless that the heat wave is over.
And not just that, I feel like, Shahzad, do you ever feel tired of working every day, coming to the
इतनी दुआएं मांग
studio?
मांग के काम मांगते हैं हम अल्लाह से, उसके बाद मेरा तो छुट्टी का बिल्कुल दिल नहीं करता.
You know, well, sometimes I feel like working hours and working conditions need to be highlighted, which is why I'm so happy that we are celebrating Labor Day today. Today is World Labor Day that is being observed across the globe, with Pakistan joining the world in honoring the sacrifices and rights of workers. The day serves as a reminder for the crucial role played by the working class in national development and the economy. As nations continue to celebrate Labor Day, it remains a powerful symbol of solidarity and recognition for the hard work and perseverance of workers everywhere.
Exactly, and Eesha, in addition to this, President Asif Ali Zardari and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif have both extended their tributes to the workforce, recognizes their contributions to the country's progress. In their messages, the leaders emphasize the need for creating a conducive environment where workers' value and dignity are respected and upheld. And I hope that, you know, in days to come, you do not have to say to people, "Yaar, meri tankhwah badha do." You know, I think that's what people really need to work on. If you see somebody is actually giving in a good time and making sure that, you know, he's fulfilling whatever your company aspires to be, please make sure that there needs to be meritocracy. And I think that's something which will actually help us work more harder. And if that's done, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we want. We want more money. I think that's it towards the end of the day, that we get paid for the kind of good job that we do. But in addition to this, not just that, I'm going to share this piece because this is very interesting, because Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on Tuesday reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to becoming the next major tech destination in light of $700 million pledged in foreign investment in the IT sector at the Digital Foreign Direct Investment Conference in Islamabad. Delegates from 45 countries arrived in Islamabad to participate in the DFDI conference. The first ever DFDI conference was held in Pakistan. Now, imagine that we have gentlemen over here who, I don't know whether I should give it away already or not, but will certainly be investing somewhere around $22 million, if I'm not wrong. But we'll be in conversation with them. Let's see if that's true or not. We're very lucky, ladies and gentlemen, to speak about it, the Digital Foreign Direct Investment Conference 2025 in Pakistan. Mr. Belal Faruki, who happens to be the founder and chief executive officer of MindHYVE.AI. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam and good morning to you. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you over here. And its counterpart, who happens to be Dr. Ullah Khan, the President Healthcare Solutions, MindHYVE.AI. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. First of all, I'm really excited to speak about MindHYVE.AI, and the reason is that that's where people were scared what artificial intelligence would do, and your company is actually doing it. So it's artificial general intelligence where the AI models will start to reason by themselves, and it's a complete automation process. So how did you come across MindHYVE.AI?
I discovered it. I fell into it. It was a hobby turned into a business. 2.5 years ago, ironically 6 months before ChatGPT became popular, I was doing some research and tinkering with AI models, and I decided to teach them and train them differently from what OpenAI was doing with GPT and what the other companies are doing. I just went down a different path. Sometimes my life has been a curse growing up going against the grain. This time it actually proved to be great. Yeah. And so I built a different kind of language model. And then after that, I built these agents on top of them, taught them how to think like a human. And now we have a digital doctor and a digital lawyer and a digital mufti, and we've got digital employees.
Yeah, so everything's gotten digital, and I think for people who are actually listening to us, if you think that it's as simple as he's making it sound, it's certainly not. You know, I don't know how many days and nights he might have been just invested into it, and certainly that's the way forward. So we're looking at complete automation. I'm going to move on to you, sir. How do you think that these models will actually help us in daily routine, you know, for my audiences to actually better understand?
Yeah, so you know, I'm a radiologist. I'm a physician, right?
Yep, I do know it.
Practicing in California. So, from my perspective, I can tell you medically speaking how it's going to help, certainly, and of course otherwise. But my story is a little bit different than his, because I've actually been looking at AI and radiology for the last 5-6 years.
Exactly, you are a world-renowned radiologist and a neurologist as well.
That's true. So basically, we do digital information pattern recognition as radiologists. So I was working with Siemens, GE, looking at artificial intelligence in my arena, and then about a year and a half ago, I ran into Belal at the masjid, actually, the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And I'm the head dishwasher at the masjid for last 10 nights. So
Wow.
I recruited him to wash dishes, and we started to learn each other about it the last 10 nights.
Yeah, wonderful.
And I realized that this was really crazy. I said, how is it possible? Because he started showing me the systems that he was building. And I was saying, how is it possible that you can do what Siemens and GE, which are billion-dollar behemoths, can't do? Because I know I'm in trenches with them. And so that's where, mashallah, I just really started admiring his work, and I said, listen, you got to bring this out. And then I have been pushing and shoving him into bringing it to Pakistan.
Wow.
He was a little resistant, I have to say. But mashallah, in the last 6-7 months.
So,
But why were you resistant? I think that's what the question needs to be. You know, we're at the crossroads now.
I've been an entrepreneur on and off for 24, 26 years of my life, and as I've evolved as a business person, I've become more skilled and more efficient at running and starting and selling companies. And so, you know, as you mature as an entrepreneur, you look for business that has the least amount of friction, right? The least amount of friction. You want to invest your money and get it out as quick as possible. So, Pakistan, at least psychologically to me, gave me visuals of a lot of friction with adoption of new technology and emerging technologies, friction from the bureaucracy. And so, not because I love my country. I love my country. I'm Pakistani American. I was born and raised in Pakistan. I love my country. But just from a point of view of business, I didn't think it was a conducive environment.
Yeah. The ease of doing business.
Yeah, but you know, Dr. Sana is an elder brother, almost an elder brother, my best friend, very accomplished. I respect and admire and honor his advice. And so when he persisted, I said, okay, Dr. Sana knows something that I don't know, and I don't know everything. And so I took a leap of faith, and alhamdulillah, you know, and now I'm passionate about it. So once I set my mind to something, I don't give up, and I've sunk my teeth into it, so let's see.
So did it come in as an angel investor, or was it more like a tech startup and Dr. Sana taking advantage of the last 10 nights of Ramadan? Hey, here's a great opportunity. I think I should get into it. Dr. Sana, what's your take on that?
Both.
I think that's great. I think that's where you need to be open. You know, if you're doing business, business needs to be business and dealt as business
and
as
you
well.
very wonderfully shared such a candid story of how you guys got together. I'm sure our audiences are going to love this. And I want to dive into the fact that how AI is going to actually change the infrastructure and economy of Pakistan. You're bringing in such a huge investment and such great technologies. How are we going to blossom and flourish in this new era?
But AGI.
With
Yeah,
AGI, yes.
You take that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my AI is fundamentally different from everything that Microsoft or Google, everybody has. So it's not a generative model. It doesn't just answer questions. It's a reasoning agent. So they're designed to find solutions where solutions don't exist, just like humans are. I mean, we're engaging in solutioning right now. You're trying to explain a story. You're providing a solution. So you think about it. So when you've built AI that can artificially solution, I call it synthetic thought. It can synthetically create thought. Well, in Pakistan, we have problems that need solutions. And they take humans, and humans cost a lot of money. And that's something we don't have. It's scarce here. So when you've built these digital beings that can solution in law and healthcare, you can start to get incredible outcomes in terms of healthcare, in terms of finance, in terms of education, because this one digital employee can service what 10,000 humans couldn't, and at a very cost-effective model. So that is how we'll impact the country. Case in point, Dr. Sana, our very passionate agenda is better health and education outcomes. That's number one for us. We aligned on healthcare, better outcomes for people. So you take a digital employee and you can go to Sahiwal or Gujranwala or Abbottabad or Hunza, and you can have one physician with this agent be able to treat 5,000 patients a week.
Exactly. You know, just recently I was reading a report that how China launched a fully functional AI hospital with up to 13 AI doctors and 5 virtual nurses, and they can treat up to 3,000 patients per day with an accuracy rate of 93%
That's
of
the
diagnosing.
beauty, the accuracy rates.
So do you think this can be achieved in Pakistan?
Absolutely.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Let
contradicting
Dr. Sana answer
answers.
this one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're already doing it. So it's not something that it's pie in the sky. So if you think of it from a moment, when you have an AI agent, a physician, AI physician assistant, that agent knows cardiology, radiology,
Everything.
endocrinology, dermatology, every ology that you got.
Yeah.
That one agent can assist that family practice or internal medicine doctor, primary care physician, get speedy specialist consultation immediately.
Like that. yeah.
Exactly.
So early diagnosis, early treatment is the holy grail in medicine.
Yes.
And AI will actually help us do that, but at a mass scale. So it makes every doctor 10 times more productive and 100 times more accurate.
Wow.
Wow.
And we already have it. So it's not like a,
And
you know,
the success rate is 93% as mentioned as well. I think, I don't know, but on a lighter note, we do have a lot of models over here, just like our other halves, who are good at reasoning. So I don't know why we needed more reasoning models. I think that's great. But I'm going to bring it down to where, you were a part of the Digital Foreign Direct Investment Conference 2025, and the Honorable Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan envisions it as that Pakistan is going to be the tech hub in coming days. How do you see that? Is it very forthcoming? And for you to be over here in Pakistan, to be a part of it, how do you evaluate it? And how does your AGI model evaluate it?
It's actually a really good question, because we have done that modeling with the AGI agent about
Yeah.
this. Yeah, first of all, I have to commend His Excellency, Mr. Shahbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister. This is a visionary. It's not only a vision, a lot of people have vision, but there's execution that makes a vision realistic. And DFDI was on a global scale, execution at scale, right? That was execution. We've been looking at foreign investments at various conferences Pakistan's been doing around the world, but this was world-class put together. So I applaud him and Mr. Abu Bakr with PSAB and Madam Shahzad Fatma at the Ministry of Information Technology, Zarar Hashmeen, and everybody that made this whole organization come together. DFDI, at least for me, and we travel around the world speaking at conferences, was a world-class event with world-class leaders over there talking about something that is no longer something that people just envision. It's an execution necessity. The countries can't survive now without emerging technologies and bringing transformation through, especially countries that have a population of 250 million people. That's no joke, right? That's a monstrous nation to manage. And so kudos to Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif for doing this. I played a very small role with Dr. Sana, and this $22 million. I mean, it's a large sum of money for us, but for some it's not that much, right? But it's still significant. But combined $700 million at one event, and that too with all this nonsense disruption that's going on our borders that people think is affecting our nation, which is absolutely is not, by the way, here for the record saying that it didn't affect us in any way. We were still open for business. But alhamdulillah for that. $700 million, that's just an impetus. More DFDIs to come. Today it's 700 million. I'm telling you the ask is going to be 7 billion next year.
Exactly.
And the dominoes will start to fall, because with this 700 million, you reinvest that, you see outcomes. And when you see outcomes in Pakistan, you see outcomes parabolically with 250 million people. So then when you ask for more money, they see more outcomes. And then as a nation, people grow with us. I think this is just a spark right now. Watch what happens next year, inshallah.
Exactly. And we're exactly looking forward to that as well. So, I do believe Dr. Sana has to contribute over here. Please go ahead.
No, I just want to say, actually, what we'd love to see is for Pakistan to become the tech hub for developing countries.
And we can be.
And there's no doubt in my mind that we can be, and no doubt in my mind that we should be. Because I will tell you right now that most people, like the US will, alhamdulillah, we're from the US, we know it's going to take care of hundreds of billions of dollars being spent.
The accent says it all.
Gulf states are hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But nobody's really looking at Africa. Nobody's really looking at Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. These are places that really could use help.
True.
And if these developing countries don't get on this bandwagon, by the way, it's a three-legged stool that I really look at. AI is one of it.
All right.
The next is going to be quantum computing
Yeah.
within the next 3 to 4 years. You combine quantum computing with AI,
Oh my God.
the next natural thing, the three-legged stool, is robotics. And it's going to be humanoids. And within the next 10 years, ladies and gentlemen, this world of ours is going to transform significantly. We have to be on this train.
Wow.
Otherwise, it's Stone Age versus Space Age.
And we certainly need to do that. Alhamdulillah, finally we were able to have political stability within the country. Shukr Alhamdulillah for the past 1 year almost.
Alhamdulillah.
Now, unfortunately, I don't know, with the Modi fascist regime, what happens is that they see Pakistan progressing, all of a sudden they start to do all of what they're doing, with these gimmicks. But Alhamdulillah, we have got gentlemen like Mr. Belal, Faruki and Dr. Sana who are here, and they're saying it does not matter to us. $700 million, not just that, I think, even we spoke about it where it was all about minerals, how $370 million in agreements and memorandums of understanding. Pakistan is on its way, alhamdulillah, and will certainly find a way as well. But so very quickly, where you spoke about how, the world will revolutionize, and I've always been a strong advocate of how we need to jump onto this bandwagon of tech revolution. And if we do not do that, unfortunately, I don't know what we'll be or where we will be. Alhamdulillah, under the auspices of our Prime Minister, we do see that. But one of the question is that, one of my friend who's into cloud computing and whatnot and security, he went to US, I think probably 4 years ago. I think he's got a unicorn company now. There's a breeding ground. If we are to kind of, obviously as a developing country, we cannot be in comparison with United States. How do you think that what factors will play a role in becoming a breeding ground for all of these tech industries to come and partake and do what Belal Faruki Sahab has just mentioned, or whoever wants to answer this question?
This is a Bilal question, for sure.
First of all, we can be the United States and we are the United States. The only difference is we've had 75 years of disruption that doesn't let us become the United States.
True.
The United States is the United States because of creative people working together in a functional environment. We have equally creative people. I hire them in Pakistan. I see better outcomes with my employees in Lahore, frankly speaking, than I've seen in 25 years of employing people in the United States.
If the internet continues to work.
Inshallah. I mean,
we need to roll out straight facts. as
Sure,
well.
of course. The internet is a challenge, granted, and these are technicalities.
True.
I know in business, I fix my internet when I have a business model.
Yep.
Right? Otherwise, I don't spend money fixing something when I've got bigger existential issues to deal with. So it's all about prioritization of resources. Inshallah, wo bhi ho jayega. You can't run a country, and a business empire or tech innovation empire without internet.
True.
Believe me, the powers that be will make it work. Inshallah. Having said that, though, we absolutely do have the capability to be the United States of America. What we need is visionary leadership, and not just one person. We need multiple minds of visionary leadership, looking at various aspects: agriculture, finance, education, healthcare, innovations,
insurance,
entrepreneurship,
real estate, technology.
all of the verticals that make a country, a land, a fully functional machine.
Yep.
And then we have visionary leadership, all those levels, but then
Exactly.
comes the execution. And I think parabolically, though, it will happen very, very, very fast.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for this reassurance, and we certainly look forward to those days as well. And just I think probably 10 years ago, I actually read an article where it said that in 20 years' time, you will be living 100 or more years. And I think that's exactly where we're headed as of now. But thank you so much, Mr. Belal Faruki. Thank you so much, Dr. Sana, for being with us. Lovely to have you over here. And thank you so much for thinking about Pakistan first. Alhamdulillah. And may you have more Ramazans of that sort as well together. And for everybody who's... Koi masla nahi hai, sir. I'll be willing to do that. But for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, I've always spoken about it, that, that Pakistan is huge in human resource and we need to use it wisely. Look after yourselves. Good morning.